messed up? Yeah. Okay, so I'm not doing a recording today. Hi everyone. Thank you for coming to my session. Oh, that was fast. Let's go back. Hey. Okay, thank you for coming to my session. There's a public announcement for the greater good. Apparently there's a change between the program in the brochure and the program online. The program online is the right one. So if you want to know, I think it's the title of all the sessions, the correct title, then go and see it online. So this year I'm turning 34. And my wife has told me that I start getting gray hair. So I've given myself permission to give you an old man's talk about all the stuff that I've learned as a Drupal consultant. And I would like to start my story with the story about how my company Pronovix became a Drupal consultancy. You see, I'm a bioengineer, and so when I started, I had a biotech consulting company that was doing consulting for biotech companies, and just as a side job, we were doing some websites. But then in 2006, about 8 years ago, I went to DrupalCon Brussels, and it was amazing. It blew me away. There were 250 people, and I was talking with these amazing people. Like I still remember clearly this session where there was Gabor Hojci, Dries, CHX, and a bunch of other people, and they were like talking about how Drupal should be better and multilingual. And I was just sitting there like, I don't understand really what you're talking about, but it's awesome. And what really attracted me to all of this was how welcoming it was, and how me as a non-developer was welcomed with open arms, and treated as somebody who's as valuable as anybody else, and that was amazing. And so yeah, that's how I got started. And then, but before I continue, come on. I'm not sure if I can do it without the auto run thing. Okay. Let's see. Is it running? No, it's running. That's not good. I'm just going to show it then full screen. Okay. So now, before I'll get you excited about products and I start saying how I want to do a product company, I need to make this statement. I love being a consultant. I love providing service to people. I love doing that job. It's great to be able to help someone who doesn't know how to make a website to get a website that is good for them. I love that. But there's a few problems with being a consultant. And one of them is that people expect to pay you most of the time at an hourly rate. And this is, I know, Jacob, you're fighting this, and but the reality is that people still want that. They're like, I've got this one customer, and he's like, yeah, we need to talk about hourly rates because you're too expensive. I was like, what? And and that's not really nice because basically you're in a zero-sum game. I don't know if you know what is a zero-sum game, but it's basically there's a fixed amount of pie, and you're supposed to divide it between people. The truth is not like that, because it's not true that there's a fixed amount of budget to do a project. Because if you provide more value, it might be that the business grows more, and you should actually be able to get more money. But most customers don't think like that. So most of the time, you're stuck between your customers and your developers, your employees. if you have employees, or yourself. Like, do I charge more to my customers, or do I charge less? Do I give more to my employees, or do I give less? And that's not really, it's not really a comfortable place to be, I think. And then there's this other thing about developers. And I've talked with you about this a little bit yesterday. But once you have people that are becoming like really good developers, they don't really like site building that much. But the problem is that your customers, they want super experts. They want these ninja kids that come in and they can do magic. And then they tell them to click on forms and make features and do that all day long. Because you want to reuse existing code. You don't want them to build new code. And developers, they just want to have fun. They don't want to be doing the same stuff over and over again. They don't want to be building thousands of websites most of the time. There's some people that can really engage in the site building work and that can really get their kicks from talking with customers and building solutions. But most of developers are not like that, as far as I've seen. So, solution number one, become an engineering company. What I mean with that is that engineering, like once you do bigger stuff, everything gets more interesting. There's always something funky that you have to solve, and there's also closer relationships with your customers because you have less customers, so you can go deeper and learn more about your customers. And you learn to deal with really big projects and really complex problem spaces, which means that you learn a whole new set of skills that you can then use for other things. And most of the time, like, people like working on bigger stuff. They like to tell their mom and their dad, like, hey, I'm working on this site that millions of people are visiting every month. That's awesome. And basically, becoming an engineering company opened for us the way to doing this product service synergy. What do I mean with that? Is that we could be doing like interesting, it's kind of like this, like, you know, symbiosis? I think everybody by now probably knows that. Anybody doesn't know symbiosis? Okay. Do you know what this is? Close. It's a fungi and something else. This is a fungi and algae together, living together. You find them all over the planet. They're one of the most enduring organisms out there. They're like on the polar circle, the permafrost. These guys are like rocking it. And that's because it's two organisms working together. For me, my feeling is that when you do product research, you can do more interesting services also. So then you expand your capabilities much more than if you're always doing websites. So product service synergy. And also, this is really important, is that once you have a profitable business, or at least ramen profitable, ramen profitable, the term? Like enough money to buy pasta every day. That's ramen profitable, so you can survive on it. You have an infinite runway. You can keep going. It's not like when you get an investor and they give you like 100,000 euros and you've got a few months. And like if the product is not finished, it's over. Infinite runway opens a lot of really cool possibilities like bootstrapping. You know what is bootstrapping? Yeah, bootstrapping, there's this story about Baron von Munchausen. Have you heard that story? Where he grabs his bootstraps and he pulls himself out of the mud. Right? That's impossible. Bootstrapping is also impossible, except if you have infinite runway. And now, when you're bootstrapping, you have to be careful though, because when you're really getting excited about a product, sometimes you can forget about the service part, or you can only focus on one thing, right? And if you're focusing on your product and you're really thinking about how to make it grow, sometimes like you think everything is still okay with the services, but maybe you have to, so you have to have some monitoring in place for that. Back at Drupal Camp New York, I promised that I would make, we have a spreadsheet for this, for doing cash flow projections. Who here is doing cash flow projections? That's right, of course, yes. But anybody else? Yeah. So basically, if you want to make sure that you're not going to run in trouble, you should be doing this, where you have an idea of like how much projects do you have in the pipeline, how many of them are you sure you're going to be doing, how much money are you going to get, when, right? Because if you've got one customer that pays 3 months late, you might be in trouble. And if you can't pay your employees, that's a big deal. Now, that was kind of common sense. Now, this one is kind of unintuitive, but it's crucial. It's one of the most important things you should learn when you try to make a product, is that you should open up right away. Most people have the instinct that when they start thinking about, well, everybody knows what's a product, right? You understand what I'm talking about? Like, if there's anything you don't understand, you should shout. If I talk too fast, tell me also. So the one thing that we learned the hard way doing products, because we've been doing this for a long time, like almost from day one, we've been experimenting with our own modules, trying to differentiate ourselves in the Drupal market. But one of the most important things that I learned and that I really saw in the last project was that if you open up from day one, you say like, we're going to build this thing, then suddenly somebody will say like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but what about this? And for example, in our last product, and I'll talk a little bit more at the end of the presentation, we had this idea to be able to show people what to do in a browser. And then this one guy, Kristof, that I met in Belgium at a Drupal user group, he said like, that's a great idea, but why don't you use Selenium to record what you're doing? I was like, that's an amazing idea. And then I go to DrupalCon Prague, I do my BOF session, and there's Dave who says like, that's really cool technology, but why don't you use a proxy so that you can inject your JavaScript in other people's websites? It's like, that's an amazing idea. And those ideas were not our own. Those ideas came from direct interaction with the community from day one. If you wouldn't have opened up, the product that we are now building, that we're about, well, that's now open in beta, but that we're about to launch, would not be what it is now. It wouldn't be launchable, I think. It's only from the interaction that we got a better product. And then the last one is to seek resonance. Because you have time, because you're doing it agile, because you have this bootstrap thing, you have to go fast, you have to get out there, but give yourself, don't necessarily have to be monetizing immediately. Sometimes it's good to do some checks to see if people actually want to pay for what you're doing, but you should give yourself the time to tune in. Like if you've ever tuned an instrument, you know that this is that's what you should be doing with your product. Like trying to find, like a product is an interaction between you and the market. And it's really important to find that resonance. Another advice I would like to give you is that you should not buy into the TechCrunch myth. Now, I think TechCrunch is very valuable. I think it's a great publication. I think it's interesting. But the whole idea that your startup is as valuable as the amount of money you've raised is really bad. And myself I've bought into that myth at some point in this process. And I see so many people that are like, I just have to find this great idea, and then I'm going to find an investor, and then we're going to make this huge startup. And so, why are you doing this? Well, I want to flip a startup. I'm like, what? Like, is that really what you want to do with your life? Is that really valuable enough? Normally investors don't even buy that because they see that you're crap. That you're full of crap. That you just figured out something and you're trying to get some money to build something big, but you're not in it with your heart. And if you then should get lucky and get investor money, you're riding a rocket. But I don't know if you know the movie this is not a rocket, it's a bomb. And so, and basically taking an investor is like strapping yourself to a rocket. If you know where you're going, like if you know where you're going, it can get you really far, and that's the only way to build something huge. But if you have a sketchy map of the terrain, it's a really bad idea. If you don't yet know exactly what you're going to do, if you haven't done that resonance check with your community, you're going to fail. And because even if it works, you might not like the outcome sometimes. And this is the tricky part, because you might end up somewhere completely different than what you thought you were going to do. So how do you prevent that? So even if you would take an investor in your product, how do you prevent getting somewhere where you don't want to be? And I think the most important there is to be conscious about your personal goals. Like, what is it that you want to do? If you're an altruist, and I like to believe of myself that I want to do something for the world, it's not that much about money for me, then I think it's very important to have a sort of moral compass when you're making decisions, so that you can take decisions that will end you up in a place where what you end up with is congruent with what you believe in. Because maximizing shareholder value is just one option of a company. Today, and this is what they teach you in business school, right, Vesa? Shareholder value is the God, is everything. Okay, that's good. But it's changed. But it used to be like that. It used to be that a business is all about money. It doesn't matter what you have to do, just get more money. Because you have to give your money back to your shareholders. And you have this duty towards your shareholders to grow their investment. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I think it's right that you should grow your investment, of course, because that's what it's all about. But there's other values, like, for example, community value. And like, what are you giving back to the world? And it's important to also think about that. Like, I go one back. For example, there's this concept of social enterprise, where you have a company that is generating profit, but that uses a big deal of that profit to invest back into communities. For example, a travel agency that helps set up villages where local people are creating traditional woven carpets or whatever, that they're selling to tourists. And basically what they're doing is they're increasing the value of their offering while doing something really good for their local communities. And I think that's a really important thing to think about. Don't just think about money. If you're thinking about just money, probably it's not going to work. There's some people that can do that, but I think they're just shells of people. I don't think they're what they could be. But at the same time, I don't want to do this either. I don't know if you all know this picture, I think, right? I think, I don't think that Wikipedia has another option than to raise their money this way. But that's not really something that I think I would like to do. Like, basically do ads so that people will donate to my foundation. So I think that there's probably somewhere in the middle, there's something where you can do something good while running a business, while providing services that people pay for willingly, that then some part of that is brought back into community. But ultimately, it's all about what is important for you. What do you want to reach with your life? And for some time, I thought that, I didn't really believe this, I think, not in my heart. But I thought that, it's kind of like when you don't know an answer and you just pick the answer of the community around you. And you say, it would be nice to have a legacy. It would be nice to do something that people know me for and that makes me, famous or whatever. Well, not to be famous, but just to do something. Because this is a picture of the Greeks. They believed that you only lived as long in afterlife as you were remembered. And so, and then there's this idea, and you hear a lot of, this is another, probably another of those, it's not a myth, but it's, so every startup is talking about, I want to make a dent in the universe. And they're like, I want to make a dent in the universe with my tiny little bloody app that helps people find cat food. Like, we're going to change the world with our app that makes, helps you choose cat food. It's ridiculous. Like, this is the answer that you hear a lot. But then, so what is your dent? What is it that you're going to do? For me, it was not making an army of consultants. That's one thing that I knew. So, all we needed was a purpose. Now, to say it in Boromir's term, one does not simply choose a purpose. It's not that simple. A purpose is something that rather finds you, I think. It's not something that just falls on you and you're started. So don't fret about if you don't know yet what your purpose is in life. Give it some time. It grows. And sometimes it's unexpected what it is. Do you know what this is? This is a desert rose. Desert roses are formed in the desert. Surprise, surprise. And it's an evaporite crystal. So the way it works is that you've got a little grain of a crystal, a salt crystal, and it grows. And then it blows a bit further, and then it turns a little bit, and that's how you get these beautiful forms from years and years of evaporation that's accumulate on them. And the same way, I think that purpose requires time. It's something that grows on you. And I think it's an emergent property of life. It's something that is created from your interaction with your community. It's something that, like, you cannot find it alone. I think it's something that you only find from interacting and working with people. And I think actually that Drupal is a great place to do that. I think the Drupal womb, as I call it, is a great place to find your purpose, because it's an amazing community where there's a lot of people that are not just living for money. There's a lot of people that really want to do the right thing for the world. And because of that, I think that Drupal is a great place to do that. It's a good womb. And for me, personally, it gave me permission to be myself. As I said, I'm not a developer. First, I tried to become a developer. But for everybody here in this room that is not a developer yet, or not, don't worry, you don't have to be a developer to be able to fit in this community. That works also without. I'm an example of that. And I think I fit in the community. Or at least I've given myself permission to say that I'm from the Drupal community. But Drupal is a great incubator. It's not a good end market. This is one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people make, and that we've made ourselves, is to think like, okay, we're a Drupal shop, we're going to make a tool for Drupal shops to do blah. Or people that focus on like, selling just Drupal to their customers. Like, okay, sometimes we are a Drupal engineering company, and we're specialized in that. But you probably should be looking at the market rather than at technology alone. What you're selling is not Drupal. What you're selling is a solution. And the technology should not be that much relevant to it normally. And for products, for sure. There's like I think there's two niches where you can build a good product in the Drupal market, or like in a market the size of Drupal, and that's probably hosting and like, support and that kind of consulting. And then there's all the consulting stuff, but that's not really a product, I would say. So, but why am I doing this? Really, why? And for that, I'd like to tell a very personal story. And when my son was 15 months old, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he's doing well. He's a very healthy energetic kid that's struggled through it all, and it's amazing. But one day when I was with him in the hospital, I realized like just how much people were actually helping with keeping him alive. There were hundreds of doctors, hundreds of nurses that were working daily on keeping him alive, the lab, the whatever. There's thousands of researchers that made the medicines. There were 10,000s of other kids that had undergone similar therapies that helped make the protocol safe. And most of all, there were millions and millions of Belgians that paid for the bills. And I just felt really deep gratefulness. But the thing was that after that moment, I went downstairs, I went outside, I come onto the street, and I realized that it's exactly the same thing. Everywhere you look, and if you look here, you see it also. Every single thing in this room has gone through the hands of hundreds or thousands of people. The technologies that were created or that were necessary to make this room is an incredible amount of effort from an enormous amount of people. And that's all around you. And that's why I chose that picture. It's basically, if you look around you, you see this incredibly large web of generosity that has built everything that you touch, everything that makes our lives better than people that lived 1 year ago. Because if my son would have been born 20 or 30 years ago, he would not have lived. And so personally, like, we are all part of this web. If you want it or not, your body will become the food of plants. Your mind is the food of culture. Like, your mind is a medium for our culture. Whatever you do, you cannot escape it, except if you go somewhere alone. Your work, even your paid for work, is food for the economy. Whatever you do, you always contribute. You cannot escape this. But I personally want to choose how I contribute. I want to consciously choose and try to do the biggest possible thing for this world that has given so much to me. The life of my son, my own life, my comfort, everything. Personally, I'm an evangelist. I learned this from years and years, that basically community is my art. Like, I don't know if you know the principle of flow. Flow is the idea that you can basically forget about yourself and fully become the thing that you're doing. Programmers know this. Artists know this. Flow is people that are doing really dangerous sports know this. Flow is the thing that brings you outside of yourself and then makes you connect with something bigger around you. For me, community is it. And this presentation is probably the closest I've gotten to making something that really brings me into that flow, into being connected with you. And I don't know if you know this picture. What do you see? It's a huge wave. That's a wave like several stories high. And that little dot there, that's a guy surfing it. That's insane. That's just insane. But I think that life is really short. I'm at 1/3, if I'm lucky. If I get 90 years old, I'm at 1/3 now. Well, actually, no, if I get 100 years old, I'm at 1/3. That's worse. And your life is very, very short. Choose very wisely what you want to do with it. And try to contribute, because, you have to anyway, so you better choose it and take control over how you contribute. So, on that note, I want to talk a little bit still about the thing that we are building. Because I've talked about how we became from a consulting company into a product company. And maybe, well, I guess you're curious about what we're building. We're building WalkHub. It's still beta. Who here knows about WalkHub? Yeah, some people. So WalkHub, and this is the only slide with this much text. I'm very proud of myself. WalkHub is a user guide for all of the internet. It's a tool that allows everybody in the world to contribute to our common knowledge about how you do things online. Because if you look around, everything is getting a user interface online today. Your government, your business partners, even your family and friends have a user interface online. It's called Facebook, right? And the thing is that a lot of people are not able to navigate that, even if a lot of money is invested in user experience, which is not always the case. A lot of these interfaces are not very usable, are difficult to navigate. So what we want to do is we want to build kind of like a map and then also a GPS to all of the internet. Dramatic pause. That's crazy, right? But I think we can do it, and I'll show you why. First of all, we've created a recorder. Now, this is a mock-up. It's not, this we don't have yet. Our form now looks a little bit uglier than that. But where we're going ultimately is a box like this where you can say where you want to start, or a button in your browser that you can just click, and it will start recording what you're doing like this. Nope. Oh no, it's a PDF. Oh, crap. Okay, I'll show you in a moment. Basically, dramatic pause. The way it works is that you can just click on stuff, do what you want to do in your browser, and it will record that. And once you've recorded it, you get this as a result. And it's basically, it's a shareable object that you can send to your dad or your mom, whoever you want to explain something. Automatically, we parameterize the domain. So it means that a Drupal walkthrough runs on any Drupal site that has the same structure. So I've got a Drupal commerce site. Walkthroughs about logging in or doing certain configurations will work also on the other sites. Right? And it's editable. So you can just, in place, just add some descriptions to explain what you're doing. And after that's done, we can automatically generate screenshots for it. Right? So those screenshots, they're also automatically updatable. So you can embed those in your documentation and have up-to-date screenshots in your documentation. Or you can use our widget that puts all these screenshots together into an object that you can embed in a blog to like explain a new feature that you've developed for a customer. But we want to build the user guide for every page on the internet, right? And there's billions of pages or even trillions of pages on the internet. So how do you want to do that? The way you want to do that is with this interface. Well, this is the interface in front of it. It's a search interface. And the idea is that, we haven't built this yet, but the idea is that when you type in a domain, we go and look at the page. And we check the DOM tree and see like, oh, this is a Drupal site. And there's this thing about blocks and this special kind of block markup. So probably that module is also installed. So these and these and these walkthroughs will work here because they worked on another page that had a similar DOM structure. It's automatically testable. So when you pay us, we'll automatically check those walkthroughs to see which ones work and which ones don't, so that you get automatically generated documentation for your site with visuals from your own site. And that's how we plan to conquer all of the internet. Excited? If you want to join our movement, and if you want to use the tool, so we've got a beta version of the tool out. It's still buggy, like all software when it's in beta. Our recorder is very buggy. We call it alpha because it's not beta yet. Like it sometimes adds steps that shouldn't be there because, you know, we're recording anything that happens in the browser, and that's a lot. But it's, you know, I feel really good about it because we've done a tremendous amount of work. And if you're interested, go to that URL there on the top and sign up for an account. You should sign up now because we've got some, like basically the accounts are free, so you can use the beta for free. and we'll have some special actions in the near future, because we are planning to do a crowdfunding to start creating documentation for all the open source projects. Well, not all, but all the open source projects that people are excited about. And there will be special perks where you can get a serious discount from the future price of the tool. So go sign up now. Don't wait. And you can also follow us on WalkHub or follow me at Kristof Van Tomme. And that's my presentation. Thank you. Who here has a size large? I'm sorry. And is excited about WalkUp? I'll give you another event. I'll give you one. So, are there any questions? Yeah? Good question, but actually we're not.
You should.
But I think actually we're not a robot, because we're using a proxy to load for people.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
but then you should make another way to block.
We have different options, right? So there's 3 ways to do this. One is using over the proxy, where we inject our JavaScript using a proxy. 2 is using a browser plugin, and 3 is using a site plugin. So we'll need to work on that. I know. One thing that we're thinking about, like, you can set what walkhubs can access your domain. So you could set, if you could have our JavaScript with only your own walkhub, for example, or something like that. So there will be a way to turn it off, yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions? Yeah? I can repeat it. Don't run. It's okay. Or, well, he's fast.
Yeah, I just want to ask why you have decided to use Drupal for this project.
Good question. Because we're a Drupal shop. And it's a really good tool for prototyping.
Have you considered using anything else?
We are already, like, we started with a proxy server in PHP. And we're now rewriting it in Go. So we're like, our idea is that, like, we needed community functionality and a bunch of other stuff in a platform that we knew and that we can easily manipulate. And Drupal was great for that. Also, Drupal as a community, because this is open source, right? I didn't mention that. This is open source. So you can download it from GitHub. So we wanted a community that would take it up also, because we want to make a movement. We want to change the way people interact with the internet. And that doesn't have to be through us alone. That can be through other, like, you know, some people want to just have their own walkhub. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Questions? Like, you know, there's t-shirts and Drupalicon plush also. No? Do you want to see a quick demo? Maybe it's dangerous. Danger, Mr. Robinson. Let's see. Okay. Oh. I hope this will work on this resolution. So I'm going to take, for example, wikipedia.org. I'm going to record over a proxy. I just click record. It's kind of sucks that they do this auto activation for that element. It's pretty small. Let's see. I'm just clicking around through a few links. Now when I finish, I just close. And you've seen it recorded the page, like the actions that I've taken. Give it a title. Save it. And then you see it automatically created descriptions for the steps based on the action that was taken. This is the domain, so that's a parameter. So you can change, like if you have a staging site, you can just replace that here. Or if you have the same site on another place, or you want to run the walkthrough on another site, you can do that here. This URL you can share. If you change the domain, the share URL changes. It's kind of like the way that YouTube does that. You know, at what minute you want to share it. We have other parameters, like you can make as many parameters as you want. So you can make parameters for people, and you can personalize walkthroughs through that way. And you can embed them. And when I start the walkthrough, I hope it works. Yep. See? Next. Now, because of the auto-selecting with the search box, it does this, and I didn't record that. But that's something that we still have to fix.
So,
yeah?
could you show the content type for the walkthrough?
Sure. First, I'll show it here. This is how you can just in place edit it. And then you can do advanced editing and then even change the action that happens, like if it's a type or a click or whatever, and on what element. You can also move it. The way that we implemented this is a really neat trick. Because first we thought it was impossible to do this. I haven't seen anyone do this. Like normally you use Selenium IDE for stuff like this, but then you're recording with really high permissions in the browser, and you're doing like, you know, you don't get that kind of rights with JavaScript. So what we're doing is we have a one pixel sitting under the mouse. When you move it, it knows where it is, and that way we know what element you're interacting with, and then we use JavaScript to do stuff with it. And then we also track what you're actually doing with that element. So when you click, you're clicking on the pixel that clicks on the element. It's kind of like drive-by-wire or fly-by-wire, where instead of changing the steering wheel, you're changing the steering wheel, but that's steering a computer that then steers the plane. It's something similar that we're doing here. The content type. There's an export to Selenium PHP units, or to clone also. So the content type looks like this. It's already themed a bit, or quite a bit. This was how first our admin interface looked like, but then people still couldn't really use it, or they didn't use it. So we went back to the drawing board and did the in-place editing stuff. Well, the advanced, that's not important. These are the parameters. Here you can add parameters. You can add a message about using a proxy, like for your security concerns. I don't know who it was who asked that. And then these are the steps, and this is how it looks like. That's the content type. So it's already pretty advanced. And you can drag them here.
So, I guess you created some kind of custom field, right?
There's quite some custom stuff in here.
I'm just curious about how you're going to store all this data in the database. You want to make
Yeah, something gigantic.
something gigantic,
Yeah.
but Drupal likes to eat database
Yeah.
space, actually.
This is a prototype. Like,
Okay.
we are fully aware that when we grow, we'll have to rewrite whole pieces and replace the database layer, do all kinds of crazy stuff. But it's about like first of all, also the distribution, the thing that you can download for yourself, doesn't need all those optimizations probably,
Yeah, right.
and that can be like lighter and just the Drupal site.
So it's gonna be available as a distribution in the
It's already now available.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah.
It's a little bit quirky to get it all working, because you need Jenkins to trigger the screening job. You need a Selenium server that can do the screenings, or well, if you want screenings, right? I'll show you the screenings in a moment, and then the Drupal side. You need the proxy server also, but all of that is available. There's some parts that we're not going to share. But those are things that are like, our secret sauce, well, how to say, that are the things that make us the ultimate walk hub. Like, you can have your own walk hub, already today. And the pieces that we're not going to share, those should only matter for people that really want to compete with us.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
The way that it looks, will I be able to show it here? I wonder. Yeah, let's see. I think that one. I hope that I can get there. Because the widgets, because it's such a small resolution, like we still need to tweak it for different resolution sizes. And I don't want to run it, but I want to just show it. This is a walkthrough that we recorded for Wikipedia, like, just to show off. And what you see is that, so first of all, this is the widget. This is embeddable. So we can, you can get that widget onto your blog. It's an iframe that has all this magic that can go full screen and stuff. So when you, right? So people can quickly see through the process and see if that's what they wanted to do. And then this is the screenings. So and for every step you see this picture. That is a permalink to that picture. So when you do a new screening and front page has changed, you've got a new picture up, you just rerun the screening and all the pictures gets updated. And with the permalink you get those. Anything else? Like I got one, but they removed that block. I got a really old one. Let me show you that one. Still have some time? How much time do you have? Anybody knows? 15? 15? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's need to do contents. I just want contents. Yes. There's a security update that I need to do, of course. Let's see. Last. And I think here, where is it? I got a login walkthrough that I want to show you. We've been making walkthroughs for our backers. That's all the stuff that you're seeing. You can see who our backers are, so I don't think this is confidential. No, come on. I had one. Oh, maybe. I want to show you one with parameters, which is kind of cool. Oh, but it's all screenings. That's the problem. Reset. I want walkthrough. Oops, filter. And then the last one. Logging in. Oh, that's from him. No. I've got one for creating a user that I want to show you. User. No. Okay, no, I don't see it. Anyway, you'll have to believe me now. But you can just create random parameters for different stuff like username and password. And then you can add those to the URL. That's probably not very secure with the password, but that's one example. And then you can make a spreadsheet, concatenate everything, and you get a walkthrough that automatically does the filling out of all the fields with the data from your database, for example, from your spreadsheet. Crazy stuff like that. Okay. That's walkup. Yeah?
If you don't mind.
You sure?
It sounds like a massive project. Can you give us some details on how you are going to host the application?
Hosting right now is just a Linode server. It's nothing fancy, but we expect once it really grows, then we'll have to look at probably splitting up in different servers and doing crazy stuff. But Right now, like this is still, it's still pre-launch. Right now, it doesn't really matter. So I think that's another thing. Is like solve the problems that you need to solve now. Like I've seen people start a startup and they're like, I need to be incorporated in Luxembourg because the taxes are lowest there, and like they haven't done a single euro of business yet, and then all kinds of stuff, and then like, why? Your business not even working yet. Why are you doing all of this? This costs you like tons of money. Just take the step that you can take now that will give you information about your users, and then get more information, take the next step. Get more information, take the next step. So, like one other thing that we've done is the crowdfunding. That was a great way to like look at crowdfunding as a way to market your thing, right? It's a way to get visibility and some initial people to follow you. And then, like we're going to do another crowdfunding, but for all of the platforms. So if you know anybody who's doing documentation for any of the open source CMSs or even for closed source stuff, I don't care. If you know someone like from WordPress or Joomla or any of the other projects, please come and tell me. I would love to get an introduction. I'm reaching out to people. Like right now, I'm reaching out to people in preparation for the crowdfunding campaign. Okay. Now, I think I should close down here so you have a little break still. Thank you very much. And go and register.